and welcome to another edition of Morning Market Call. I'm your host, Rhett Weller. Pleased today to have with us Professor Dan Snow of the Merit School. How you doing?
Good, nice to be here.
Good, thank you. So I understand you're kind of a motorhead. I understand cars. You worked in Detroit for a while.
Yeah.
Did some research on cars. There was an announcement last week. The site Motor Authority covered a story detailing a new green engine partnership between BMW and Toyota for European-built BMW and Toyota cars. The partnership will give Toyota full access to BMW's range of clean diesel engines and give BMW the chance to use Toyota's industry-leading hybrid drivetrain technology. That's kind of a mouthful. I understand there's a partnership between Toyota and BMW. Can you explain this in layman's terms?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think there's a pattern that you're seeing here in the car industry that there are kind of economies of scale in innovation. And the companies that got on early onto some of the new clean technologies are the ones that have been able to build scale and are actually showing that they're pulling ahead of the rest of the pack. And in the case of a company like BMW, if they want to get onto hybrid technology, they're going to have to do something other than probably do it themselves. So they're having to go outside to a partner like Toyota. Other companies are going to suppliers for this kind of technology. And this is reshaping industry dynamics to some extent.
Wow, interesting. Do you think this will grow outside of just the green technology?
Yeah, it does. There's a really consistent pattern in the car industry and in other industries, in fact, where, for instance, things like anti-lock brakes in the car industry, fuel injection, radial tires, those things often will get taken up, produced, and really perfected by a couple of companies. That's going to change who is really leaders in the industry, and then the other companies have to follow and try to catch up. And so if you go play the tape back, 30, 40 years when we had some of the U.S. companies were at the front of the pack, this small car green technology that we saw in the 70s and 80s is now really hitting its stride with companies like Toyota, Nissan, Renault in Europe. Really sort of taking a lot of the wind out of the sails of those big companies.
Interesting. Do you think we'll see this type of partnership here in the United States among American automakers?
Yeah, we do. And in fact, we've already seen Ford going outside for some of its engine technology. We see GM doing partnerships with other places. They probably still have scale to do some of it themselves, but it's a big, important pattern. I think to see a company like BMW have to decide what they're going to do and go, overcome their kind of pride in their own engineering to go to a competitor like Toyota it's actually a really big deal.
Yeah, it's interesting because historically, big competitors. The car industry is known for having competition, price wars, market share wars. That's really interesting. So what does this tell us about the future of the industry going forward?
It's great. I think there's a neat lesson deep down behind the story, and that's that if you go back 10 years and you look at Toyota as they were pioneering hybrid technology, they had a choice, and they had a choice of whether to go outside to suppliers to try to go for motor controls and electric motors and battery technology, or to do it themselves. And Toyota decided to do this in-house and try to build this capability, even though it didn't seem like an economic proposition at the time. So all of that investment that they did early on, both in terms of developing their own technology and educating their customers about the use of hybrids, like really for a long time they were the only players there, other than Honda. That's yielding benefits now, and the companies that weren't on that bandwagon are really having to scramble to catch up, because they don't have that internal capability that Toyota was able to build.
Wow, that's really interesting. The partnership actually makes you more competitive and more, it makes the other companies have to catch up. So outside of the car industry, can we see partnerships like this taking shape in other industries?
Yeah, I think we will, and we do. I think that this kind of pattern of companies that are willing to invest in the long-term solutions to their technology problems are going to be the ones that are able to have competitive advantage out into the future. And those that are kind of short-sighted about thinking, well, we can just outsource our innovation and technological development, those are the companies that are going to be scrambling in 5 or 10 years when they have to go to partners to catch up.
Wow, that's really cool. So that's really interesting. As long as I don't, go to buy my 67 GTO and it's got a BMW engine in it, I'm totally fine with it. So thanks for coming on. We really appreciate the talk here about the auto industry. We'd like to thank Professor Snow for coming on. You can catch more episodes online at morningmarketcall.org or follow us on Twitter at BYU_MMC. Thanks for coming by.
MMC is brought to you by the Marriott School of Management in association with the Brigham Young University Department of Communications. MMC is made possible by a generous donation from Larry Tasjan and Gary Williams and is produced by Rhett Weller, Todd Castagna, Mason Chen, Joel Toby, and Sabrina Beck, with line producing by Beth and Brian Grimmett. For more information, find us on Twitter or at morningmarketcall.org.